Emily stopped in the doorway and felt the world compress into a single, shallow breath. Noah's crib sat empty beneath the nightlight, the blanket smoothed as if nothing had reached for it in hours. The mattress held no impression, no twist, no small indentation that would suggest a child had just been there. She held the baby monitor in her palm and watched the tiny screen like a talisman. On the feed, Noah lay soundly on his side with one fist near his cheek, breathing slow and even. The timestamp pulsed forward in perfect sync. Her eyes darted from screen to crib and back again. The sight of her son sleeping on the phone while her arms hovered over an empty mattress registered as an impossibility, a fracture between two truths. She found her fingers clench. A thin band of static streaked the bottom of the image for a heartbeat and vanished, leaving the monitor's image serene, stubbornly certain that nothing had changed. Emily felt something behind that certainty, a mismatch, a slip between what was captured and what was lived. She swallowed and stepped forward. The hallway would cool under her feet, and for the first time in months, the house did not feel quiet. It felt like it was waiting. Two realities were unfolding at once, and one of them had to be wrong. 6 months earlier, they had chosen this house for its stillness, maple trees lining the street, porch lights that blinked on like daybreak, neighbors who waved and returned to their calm lives. Emily's shifts at the dental clinic began before dawn. Ryan's warehouse hours ended well after dinner. The mismatch left long hours alone for Emily and a quiet that sometimes felt too large around one small child. Noah was an easy baby most nights, quick to settle and slow to stir, but his breathing had a thin, watchful quality that made Emily check the monitor long after she should have slept. They had bought a baby camera for reassurance, night vision, motion alerts, an app that pinged if anything changed. It gave her comfort, an optical tether between rooms and responsibilities. Life held its routine rhythms: dinner, bath, story, a lullaby hummed half asleep, and the tiny green dot on her phone that meant he's okay. They weren't afraid of the dark. They were simply used to it, trusting the ordinary cadence of a family. Yet in that easy trust, a few small anomalies had begun to press like faint notes out of tune, subtle enough for a rational mind to explain away, persistent enough for a mother to hold them in the back of her awareness. The rhythm of the house had started to misalign, one quiet beat at a time. The things that come before an event are almost always tiny, innocuous, laughably insignificant, until they are not. At 1:07 a.m. one evening, the monitor issued a single sharp click that jerked Emily upright. The feed showed Noah sleeping, but he blinked, head turning as if following a whisper. Another night, the motion sensor flashed for 4 seconds when no one crossed the frame. Once, the night vision engaged while the lamp was still on, an anomaly Ryan explained away as a sensor hiccup. Noah began to fix his eyes on the same spot in the nursery, a small area by the dresser where the paint met the shadow, where the light refused to settle. He would stare there with the clarity of a child listening to a voice only he could hear, then relax and drift back to sleep. Emily cataloged each small occurrence and tried to file it under ordinary causes: draft, electronics, bad wiring, exhaustion. These tiny events never lasted, but they accumulated like cold days in a slow winter, shaping a mood the house itself carried forward. Each small strangeness tightened the wire of her unease, and she began to find herself watching the phone with the vigilance of someone awaiting a next beat she dreaded. Small things had gathered, and the air around them felt newly watchful. At 2:43 a.m. the monitor chimed, motion detected. Emily reached for the phone in the dark with practiced movements and saw Noah asleep, blanketed and still. Yet the light in the nursery seemed to pool differently. Shadows stretched with sharper edges. The small toys on the shelf cast unfamiliar silhouettes. She moved down the hall, the wood cold beneath her feet, expecting to find the usual. Soft breaths, rumpled blanket, a child who might fuss if she touched him. The crib was empty. Not displaced, not climbed out of. Empty. The mattress lay undisturbed. Nothing in the room suggested entry or exit. Her phone kept showing Noah under the blanket, his chest moving gently. She stepped into the space unfolding the way a person steps into a story they can't yet read. Her whisper of his name returned only the echo of her voice. The house didn't answer. The monitor kept its steady, impossible image. Emily's throat tightened with an animal confusion. How could the screen show what her hands could not find? She reached over the rail as if to touch him, and felt only air. The camera insisted he was asleep, while the room insisted he had vanished.
They played the clip together in the dim living room, couches scraped aside, coffee table a staging ground for a phone and 2 cups gone cold. At 2:42:11, Noah's head tilted slightly. At 2:42:26, the blanket lifted upward in a soft hook. Not a kick, not a toss, but a tug that suggested something had redirected weight. At 2:42:41, the motion icon flashed red, though no figure entered the frame. Night vision smeared the room in soft green. The shadows gained depth and behaved like fabric folding in on reason. At 2:42:58, Noah lifted, then subsided. At 2:43:00, his arm extended for a brief half-second, as if reaching for a hand that wasn't there. They slowed, frame by frame, fingers tracing edges of light, but each freeze revealed nothing human stepping into view. When Emily paused the footage and looked at the crib in real life, all she saw was the clean sheet and an absence so blunt it throbbed. Ryan kept replaying the same seconds, as if repetition might offer a missing beat. The timestamps matched the clock on the wall, and yet they mapped 2 different sequences of truth. The footage was honest about time, but dishonest about place. Logic became a solve Ryan applied too quickly to a wound that refused to heal. He checked the app's log, the router's uptime, the camera's firmware updates, and every setting that might generate a ghost image. The network signal held steady. There was no evidence of cached playback, no recorded loop in the log. They rebooted the system and scanned for corruption. Nothing. Emily walked the house like a guard, opening closets, checking under beds, pressing her ear to the floorboards to listen for the whisper of tiny footsteps. She called neighbors, asking if anyone had seen or heard anything odd. No. She posted a careful description in a parenting forum and received sympathetic technical answers and one cautious post from a user who claimed similar moments in older homes. Still, the evidence refused to fall cleanly into an explanation. The discrepancy between the monitor and the room resisted every effort to be translated into something sensible. Ryan's voice ceded its certainty and settled into a thin, brittle softness. "I don't know how to make sense of this," he admitted, and the honest shape of that not knowing hovered between them. Every attempt to rationalize only deepened the mystery. They slowed the clip to a crawl. At 2:42:55, Noah lifted his head and focused toward the closed nursery door with the concentration of a child hearing a familiar call. At 2:42:57, he reached forward, fingers stretching into an apparent emptiness. The blanket began to slide, an even, deliberate movement, downward a few inches, as if something invisible guided it. At 2:42:02, Noah leaned forward in a motion that suggested being lifted. His feet were not visible stepping out of the crib, but his ascent had the cadence of being carried. The camera recorded no hands, no shadows that matched the movement. There was a micro-glitch of static, a thin fold in the image, and in that microsecond, the frame displayed Noah back under the blanket, sleeping. When the image stabilized, there was a child in the crib again, breath measured and blanketed, but their living room clock insisted the seconds had ticked differently. Emily felt the world of her assumptions slip like sand, solid truth shifting into a different shape under pressure. They watched on, two adults attempting to hold on to coherence as the footage refused to be domesticated by explanation. Noah's movement defied every rule they relied on to make sense of the night. 3 minutes later, they found Noah in the hallway closet. The door was almost shut, leaving a narrow triangle of light slanting across his small knees. He sat upright on the carpet, a wooden block clutched in his lap like a relic. The toy hadn't been with him at bedtime, she was sure of that small detail. He looked up as Emily scooped him into her arms. His eyes were unfocused, as if stained with a sleep that had been interrupted halfway through. He didn't cry, he didn't push away. He simply looked at the nursery door and pointed, then said in a voice so soft she had to lean in to hear, "He called me." Emily's stomach dropped. "Who called you?" she asked, breath shallow. Noah's face folded into the ritual of a child's forgetfulness. He nuzzled her shoulder and offered no answer. The closet held a residual warmth like someone had been there recently, a human trace of heat that contradicted the clinic cold of rational thought. They examined the closet. No footprints, no sign of crawling through a window, nothing to indicate that a logical path had led him there. It was as if he had been elsewhere and returned with a witness memory that fit no framework they possessed. He spoke a name they could not place and left them with a single impossible sentence.
In the days that followed, the house contracted and breathed differently. Noah's nights no longer offered reliable sleep. He woke at odd hours, sometimes sitting up and fixating on the same corner by the dresser, eyes tracking something that wasn't there for anyone else. The monitor issued alerts in the middle of nights when no motion could be seen, the feed occasionally flicking to different angles as though exploring on its own. The family took the monitor down and reinstalled it. The app reset to factory defaults only to resume its odd behavior. Ryan unplugged the main unit once, then twice. The device powered back from the wall outlet alone, lit by an unseen current. Emily found herself lingering by the nursery door at odd times, listening to the stillness for a meaning that wouldn't arrive. Convos with friends became guarded. The subject felt too strange to invite casual curiosity. Nights grew longer with questions, mornings edged with a tired vigilance, and the steady hum of domestic life took on the color of watchfulness, a quiet tension that shaped their days. Their home no longer felt neutral. It felt like a place that had witnessed something that still wanted attention. They scoured forums and filed bug reports, but the answers returned felt shallow. Network latency, firmware problems, sensor misalignment. Each plausible explanation missed the parts that mattered, the synchronized timestamps, the absence of any physical entry, the small human detail of Noah clutching a block that had been boxed away. Other parents posted fragments, accounts of children appearing simultaneously in video and in some other space, stories of blankets shifting as if an unseen hand had moved them. Some voices recommended professional technicians, others suggested spiritual counselors or family elders to perform blessings, reactions that revealed how culture filters mystery. Emily felt the tug between rationality and ritual.
between seeking a technical fix and hearing the possibility that some experiences resist being reduced to equipment logs. They agreed to bring in a technician to inspect the hardware, and they called a neighbor who worked with CCTV for a second opinion. No one publicly suggested that the footage captured anything supernatural. Yet in private messages, some users admitted a quiet unease, a recognition that cameras sometimes told the story their eyes could not. There were plausible answers, but none fit the full shape of what they had seen. On long, slow evenings, Emily found herself replaying the night, not to dig for fear, but to re-salvage sense, looking for a pattern, a sign, a clue. She began to watch small domestic details with a sharper edge, how the lamp diffused light at certain angles, how a draft might conspire with a camera lens. She listened for footsteps that never came. Noah continued to wake with a specificity in his attention, a focus on a corner where paint met shadow, a calm he could not explain. Ryan walked with a kind of cautious disillusionment, practical by training, but softened by the oddity they carried. They did not make the incident a story for friends over wine. Instead, they kept it close, like an object too delicate to display. The memory settled into their lives like a scar, noticeable when the skin tenses and otherwise quiet, a reminder that not all domestic mysteries will fit under the language they were taught. Still, they lived daily as before. Dinners, baths, hurried goodnights, now tinged with an awareness that something in the quiet had marked them. Some questions are safer held quietly than shouted into the light. Weeks later, the monitor continued to hum softly in the corner of the nursery, less a tool than a witness. Emily sometimes left it on and watched the small green dot pulse like a heartbeat, thinking about the uncanny way images and presence can split apart. The family never settled the tension entirely, but they learned to live around it, attuning to Noah's rhythms, checking doors twice, holding small rituals of reassurance, a lullaby repeated, a book read twice, an extra kiss at night. If this story made you look at the devices in your home with a different care, tell us in the comments what your camera might be holding for you. If you want more quiet incidents captured by ordinary equipment and stubborn human witnesses, subscribe for the next story. Sometimes the things the camera catches are the things we most need to notice, not because they are loud, but because they are patient enough to wait until someone watches. Even the quietest footage can demand an answer, and sometimes the camera sees what we aren't yet ready to understand.